بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا ما يضلل فلا مضل له ما يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن حبيبنا محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم أما وبعد. First of all, Jazakallah khair for inviting me to this very snowy city of Ottawa. I am coming in from Vancouver, British Columbia, and we have no snow. So henceforth, my twins that I brought with me skipped and hopped and jumped and slid in their thobes all the way to this conference hall. And mashallah, tabarakallah, it was a sight to be seen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So again, Jazakallah khair for the coordinators and all of you beloved sisters here. Today, inshallah ta'ala, the topic that I've been given is balance. And as women in general, balance is something that we struggle with daily. Does anyone disagree? Balance is something that a Muslim woman has to keep intact in order to keep sanity. And this is something, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to work on today together. Balance begins with remembering one thing. This life is temporal. This life is very short. We have to constantly take account of ourselves, asking ourselves these questions. Now, what I usually do with sisters when I go through this, I'd like you to close your eyes. Every single one of you, close your eyes. Ask yourself these questions and answer wisely. Do you know that you are traveling on a journey for which there will be no end? Have you prepared yourself for this journey? Have you taken provision from this transient world in the form of righteous deeds to give you comfort and soothe your loneliness in the grave? How old are you? How long will you live? Don't you know that for every beginning there is an end? An end will either be in Jannah or in Jahannam. Can you imagine how it will be if the angels come down from the heaven to take your soul while you are heedless and having fun? Can we imagine that day? Have you imagined that day, the last hour in your life? The hour when you will leave your family and children, your nearest and your dearest? That is death. With all of its agonies and intense pain of that soul's departure, that is death. After your soul has departed your body and you are taken to be washed and shrouded, then taken to the masjid for the funeral prayer to be offered for you, then you are carried on the shoulders of men. Where are you going to be taken? To the grave. The first stage of the hereafter, will it be one of the gardens of paradise or one of the ditches of hellfire? And I want you guys to open your eyes and look at the picture here on the slide. They can't see me. Okay. I'm sliding over to the middle. Is that better? Sorry, you guys, I wasn't even paying attention. So if you look at this slide here, this slide can readily be found on Google. And the reason that I start my lectures typically like this, and I know it's a little bit doomsday, but we constantly don't think about death. Even though we may be at a funeral prayer, we may be at a janazah, we may be doing many things. But the issue is that we don't think about the grave. Barakallahu feek. We don't think about the grave. And this is, subhanAllah, when we think about the grave, we think of, a hole in the ground. This is, subhanAllah, one of the Islamic graves, which are very narrow. And I just want all of us to think about death when we're thinking about having to keep the balance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran what is translated to mean by time. Indeed, mankind is in loss, except for those who have believed end unrighteous deeds, and advised each other to truth, and advised each other to patience. In order to put emphasis on this life and how time needs to be balanced, we must first think of one thing. And that one thing, subhanAllah, is the seerah of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. When we study the seerah of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with specific focus on his daily and regular routines, it is an eye-opener. What a beautiful story. Something so memorable, sometimes we don't even let it affect us as much as it needs to. This, subhanAllah, it's how meticulous he was in planning every aspect of his day. How he prioritized tasks, how serious he was about keeping his word, and how he kept his speech precise and not indulging in idle talk. Now, us women, yes, we're social beings, yes? We all agree? We like to talk. We like to have conversation. About, the masjid is supposed to also be the community ground that we can discuss things in. So this is not what we're talking about, idle talk. Idle talk is when there's no benefit to be gained from it. He was the best of creation. Khair al-khuluq. And he was like just this amazing individual that when you look at his life, you look at the seerah, mashallah, tabarakallah. So many life lessons, and one of them is balance. And it is natural that we have to learn from him as our example. Not anyone else out there right now. We turn to the Quran and the Sunnah. We don't idolize people. We don't look at other people and say, I want to be like that person. We look at the seerah. And we want to follow in the footsteps of our Nabi, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. SubhanAllah, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said in one hadith, O Allah, bless my nation in their early mornings. Now this is, subhanAllah, I met one lady just recently, and she told me I'm a night person, but I force myself to be an early person. I force myself to be a morning person. And we'll talk about why, inshallah ta'ala. And I'm going to give all of you, I'd like it to be interactive. So when it comes to certain points, I might call on you, so please don't feel shy to say something out loud. But inshallah ta'ala, we're going to keep it short so that I can open the whole forum up for questions, inshallah ta'ala. Now, women's balance, we have multifaceted lives, and it's spread among different areas. All different areas our lives are spread in. So an example, a woman sometimes, the home life, the social life coexist, right? So when do you see other sisters? If you're a mom, when do you see other sisters? When you invite a mom with other kids over, right? So your social aspect is actually linked to your home life anyways. Whereas the men, mashallah, tabarakallah, they go to the masjid, they tend to leave sometimes the kids and the women at home, and they go to the masjid, and they have their social life, understood. So when it comes to the woman, it's very particular and very specific. We have to understand this from a different level as women. And that is through a spiritual development that happens within each of us. That spiritual development is called tawakkul. Putting your full trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first and foremost. And when we, subhanAllah, as women, I remember even last night I gave a lecture at a local masajid here, and subhanAllah, the sister said that it's very difficult to manage, to balance, right? And sometimes we become very routine, where our salah, we may worry about the dishes, we may worry about this, we may worry about that as soon as we say Allahu Akbar, right? You know, you say Allahu Akbar, and then what happens? Everything comes to mind, right? But this is the social aspect of a woman. This is where we have to fight a little bit to have that spirituality contained, right? And this is, subhanAllah, where we can become robotic and routine in our salah as well, right? Okay, for example, salah time comes in, you're like, okay, let me just get this salah over with because I got to do those, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do that. Right? Or for those who are working and parenting and going to school and all those things, you have to be very organized in your routine, so very balanced. And subhanAllah, I remember when I started to study, I didn't have any children. And I was working full-time though, and I'd work full-time, come back home, start to study, and I'd study until Isha, go to sleep, get up at Tahajjud, start to study again until I had to go to work. And subhanAllah, then you throw pregnancy into that mix. And then the balance has to shift a little bit. And then you throw twins into that mix, and the balance has to shift again. And then you throw another kid into that mix. Next balance, right? So this is something where each and every one of us is very individual in the balance that we have to maintain. My life is not like yours is not like mine. But if we have this one principle, and that is tawakkul of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and putting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first before anything else, everything else will fall into place. So 6 lessons on Muslim women balancing that we can draw from the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's life, enormous and purpose-driven life. Beautiful, mashallah, tabarakallah. He had a purpose to his life. And this is what we all want to do, right? We want to have a purpose to our existence. Irregardless, if we are a mom who's at home with their children, we want to have that. There's a purpose to us being a mom. Those children are considered a manna, a gift, something, an entrustment. So this is something where we want to learn about these things. First thing is the salah, of course. Schedule your day around your 5 daily salah. Your whole day. Al-Aswad bin Yazid radiallahu an asked Aisha radiallahu anha, what did the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam do at home? She said, he used to work for his family. And when he heard the adhan, he would go out. Now, how can we now put that into our lives as women? Same thing. If you have a husband who goes to the masjid, you stop everything, you pray. If you have a husband who's at the masjid for a few salahs, you mandate that as soon as the salah comes in, we're praying. Your salah is the most important thing. And subhanAllah wa bihamdi, when we look at this, we have to understand that when also as women and as mothers, when we look at the salah, we're like, okay, it's salah time. And one of the worst things that we can do as mothers is said, yalla yalla, salah. Yalla yalla yalla. But mama, what are you doing? Oh, I just have to finish whatever I'm doing over here and then I'll pray. But yalla, you go. Right? Happens to all of us. But when you establish the salah together, it's the same principle that the West comes up with, which is when you eat together, you stay together. Right? A family that eats together stays together. I'm sure you've all heard the coin statement now. I don't know which da'i or sheikh came up with it, but a family that prays together stays together. And subhanAllah, it is very true. But making your priority the salah. Just before coming into here, I did a small little kids program. And subhanAllah, it was a shock to me at how many children don't even pray at the age of 10. Even a couple salahs. And this is something that we have to encourage as women. Because you educate a woman, you educate the whole community. Because those women are the ones teaching the children. So this is very important. So this discipline of us mandating that our schedule goes around the 5 daily salahs is that you give up all your work and your life distractions to perform salah, which will what? Strengthen your willpower. That willpower you need to have purpose in this life. And just as you endeavor to be punctual for meetings with your colleagues or anybody else, you should perform your salah on time. Right? One of the, mashallah tabarakallah, Sister Lula, she said, I like to start on time. Right? And mashallah tabarakallah, the whole conference, from what I've noticed, is it's on time, Allahu Akbar. This is the first conference that I've been at that's been on time, right? So this is where we have to keep that mentality of when we pray, we prioritize things. So we naturally prioritize when we mandate that our salah comes first. Figuring out what the real priorities in life are. What is worth spending an hour on? What comes first? What is a must do and what is good to do? Now, you don't have to raise your hands, but how many of you can get lost on any kind of device, electronic device, whether laptop, iPad, iPod, iPhone, smartphone, TV, for more than an hour? Just check yourselves. More than an hour, just sitting there during the day. But then say, I don't have time to pray on time. Or I don't know where the time went. I didn't really have time to do that. Because what happens, subhanAllah, is we lose time. Remember the surah that we started with. Man is at loss with regards to what? Time. So prioritizing and making things important. What is important I do first? So what's the first thing? We just mentioned it. Salah. Right. So this is even for sisters who work in community. How many, by a show of hands, please raise your hands for this one. How many of you do community work? Either dawah, some kind of MSA, some kind of, raise your hands. So like 20 maybe? Allahu Akbar. 20 out of this whole room? Okay, well, we got some scarce hands coming up now. Okay, so when it comes to community work, we have to remember one thing. That the family comes first. And I'm giving this my own advice to myself. Family comes first, subhanAllah. Because we can get caught up as women, right? We want to help, we want to be there, we want to do something beneficial for our lives. But guess what? Those children are our Jannah. And anything that we do, if we have to make sure that we're the same on the outside as we are on the inside. Meaning if we're outside and we're doing community work and then we go home and we complain, right? This is not beneficial. So this is something we want to put things in order as well. Now, put people over things, never things over people. Very important. Family affairs. The Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was consistent in making time for the family. Now, I know this, you can also share this with the men, because they're not here. But you can share this with the brothers, inshallah ta'ala. Anas bin Malik, radiallahu an, said the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was the most merciful of people towards who? His family. He had his son Ibrahim suckled in part of Medina, and the husband of his wet nurse was a blacksmith. We used to go to him, and the house would be full of smoke from the bellows. He would kiss the child and take him in his lap. In other words, when we look at this hadith, we understand many different things about the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Number one, it doesn't matter what level of community or society, how poor you are still a Muslim to us. It doesn't matter. And I remember, subhanAllah, I'm going to share a short story with you. Right before I took my shahada, there was a brother, subhanAllah, he was taking us to the masjid. And he said, sister, what brings you here? What's a curiosity? Because I wasn't a Muslim yet. I said to him, I'm going to ask you the same question, brother. I said, what's so beautiful about Islam? And you have to remember, I'm 17, right? No worry in my life. I'm just like asking as many questions as I want. No sense of modesty at that point. I said, well, what? You tell me. What's so beautiful about Islam? And he said, subhanAllah, words that I've used many times over. He said, Islam is like a bouquet of flowers. Many different colors, many different kinds, but they make up a beautiful bouquet called Islam. And every time I say it, my whole hair stands up on end. I mean, when you go into the masjid, I mean, just look around. Sisters, look behind you a little bit. Everybody turn around, look behind them, look beside you. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Where else could you get this? Where else could you get this? I remember, subhanAllah, the first time I walked into a masjid, I was shocked. I was like, wow. At one of the halaqas I just gave recently in the last month, I asked them, I said, so let's go through. I said, I asked a group over here, where are you from? We had 20 different nations at a small halaqah. There was about 110 people. And subhanAllah, I was in shock. Just beautiful. And this is subhanAllah, when we don't look at rank, we don't look at nation, we don't look at tribe, we don't look at color. We look at who that person is. What can they bring of benefit to the community? And subhanAllah, with Rasul also his personal and social affairs, he consistently made time for his followers so no one felt neglected. Another sunnah of Rasul is that when he spoke with someone, he would hold their hand. And he wouldn't let it go until he was finished speaking. Why? Because human contact automatically connects the individual. That's why majority of the ulama say that we shouldn't shake hands with men. Because there's a natural connect. And subhanAllah, if you've ever, now I'm not talking about that whimsical shake that we give sisters sometimes, right? But a good handshake where you're holding the sister's hand and you connect with them. That love that we share from sister to sister is nothing like anything else on earth. And this is something that I want you guys to really take home with you today. Because look, this is just Ottawa area. It's probably not even a minute, percentage of the Muslims around here. But take that with you. And subhanAllah, so remember also when the Rasul was giving his final khutbah to the people. And he said, no black is over a white, and no white is over a black. It's only through Iman that you have higher. Now this is something too very important, my dear sisters. Honor other people's time and yours will have more barakah. Be mindful of other people and what they're putting forward for you. The Rasul was sensitive to his companions' time and his needs, and his khutbahs, sermons were brief, concise, and powerful. It was reported one time, Amr delivered to us a sermon. It was short and eloquent. When Amr, descended from the pulpit, we said to him, what? You have delivered a short sermon. Would that you had lengthened the sermon, he said. I heard the Rasul saying, the lengthening of prayer by a man and the shortness of the sermon is the sign of his understanding his deen. Look at that, subhanAllah. So lengthen the prayer and shorten the sermon, for there is charm in this expression. Because what happens, subhanAllah, you can get going on some kind of talk, but the salah is so short, right? And we see it, subhanAllah, sometimes in our children where, they do the Speedy Gonzalez salah, I call it. They Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, right? And subhanAllah, one time when I was demonstrating it at a seminar, I was trying to show them how fast they were going in the salah, and I actually hit my head so hard on the ground that I couldn't get up because it was so fast. And this is, you see it in the masjid too, correct? Sister comes in, what did you say? Well, what were you doing? And subhanAllah, we have to remember, subhanAllah, that salah that we're praying is lost for all time. That salah that you made today, what's the date today? March 21st? March 21st? Asr, sah? Dohar? You prayed Dohar. So you prayed that salah. If you miss that salah, it's gone. It doesn't come back. So pray it like you're praying to the Creator, like you're praying to the Lord of the worlds. And this is something, connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lengthen your salah. Talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your sujood. And this is something also that we have to be aware of as Muslims. Honoring others' times is part of fulfilling your promise as a Muslimah. Breaking a promise does not only causes inconvenience to others, but to ourselves. And we lose respect. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran what is translated to mean, and fulfill every engagement. For every engagement will be inquired into on the day of reckoning. So remember how I just said that if you miss the salah, it doesn't come back again? Everything will be inquired about on the day of judgment. So let's try to make it something that's more powerful and more meaningful. Hasten to do good. The Rasul said, be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wherever you are. Follow the bad deed with a good one to erase it, and engage others with beautiful character. There's one time, subhanAllah, I did a speech at one of the masjids in Western Canada, and subhanAllah, they didn't know who I was. I just, went there. I was invited, and they sat around me, and subhanAllah, the aunties in the back, and I'm going to put the mic down for a sec. The aunties in the back were like this. And subhanAllah, I don't even remember what my topic was at that point. But subhanAllah, I said to them, I said, Habibti, I said, aunties. I called them out in public. I said, aunties, I said, why? I said, subhanAllah, we have been given this beautiful gift called Islam. Show the beauty of it on yourself, within your character. So that what? You are welcoming people. SubhanAllah, this is what happens a lot of the time in the masjids, is that we close the door and we don't let people in unless they're fitting our criteria. And we make them feel alienated. This is not how the Rasul ﷺ was. Remember, he let the man urinate in the masjid. Urinate. I don't think we have any sisters urinating in the masjid, do we? SubhanAllah, a man came into the Rasul ﷺ's masjid. He started to urinate. The Sahabas wanted to chop off his head. They were like, let me at him, I'm going to get him, right? He's peeing in the masjid. A sacred ground for a Muslim. Rasul ﷺ said, stop. Let him finish. What? Let him finish urinating in the masjid. Then you know what he said? He told the Sahaba to go clean it. Not the man. What did he just teach them? He taught them patience. He taught them to be empathetic, to be compassionate, to also know that everybody comes at a different level and at a different time. And subhanAllah, all he said to the man was, we don't do that here. Okay, guess what? Shahada. It's all about our character and how we portray ourselves. So this is where this hadith is beautiful. Follow up a bad deed with a good one, and engage others with beautiful character. Don't forget about your character, my dear sisters. Your character is what's shining through. What makes many people become Muslim and stay Muslim and love each other like we're supposed to. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh reported, Allah's Messenger ﷺ as having said, hasten to do good deeds. Before 6. Rising of the sun from the west, the smoke, the Dajjal, the beast, and the death of one of the general turmoils. So meaning that death will happen. Lots of death. So take advantage of your time. Do something beneficial. And this is my final slide, inshallah ta'ala, then I'm going to open the floor for questions. Each day is a new day. Don't let shaitan keep you held back. Wake up and say, this is a new day, I'm going to start something new. I'm going to reaffirm with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how I'm going to be. How I'm going to change, how I'm going to make changes to empower myself as a Muslim woman. Each day has its own share of work, and each time has its own share of obligations. The Prophet ﷺ, there was no such thing as idle time. I remember, subhanAllah, a sister one time, she was sitting on a sofa. And I said to her, I was flying by, I was doing something, and I said to her, I said, what are you doing? And she said, I'm not doing anything. And I said, what do you mean you're not doing anything? Are you thinking? Like you're thinking about something? And she said, no, I'm just sitting here thinking about nothing. I was shocked. I didn't even know you could do that, right? And subhanAllah, and then she said to me, she said, okay, I think I have to get up and do something now that you, that you mentioned that, right? But subhanAllah, we don't want to have idle time. Idle time, idle talk. We want to do something beneficial in this life because guess what? We don't know when the angel of death is coming. Do we? We don't know. SubhanAllah, just recently we had so many youth who passed away in BC. So many. And you know, one of my teachers passed away. Allah have mercy on him. Ameen. And subhanAllah, he said something so beautiful to me. He was actually the first one who gave us dawah. And he said to me, we went in to the hospital. He was very sick. But he didn't let anybody know. You know, he was at the hospital. He said, it's okay, I'm just suffering from a little bit of a cold. And I walked in, and his name was in fluorescent paper, directing to where we could go. I've never seen that in a hospital in my life. Directing this way, directing this way, directing this way. SubhanAllah, I got off, I could smell the perfume of the brothers. You know that beautiful musk, well, maybe all y'all don't think it's beautiful, but I love the musk smell. You know, when you walk and you know that a Muslim brother's been there, that beautiful scent. And subhanAllah, we kept going, and this nurse came out, and she said, you can't go. She told me I can't go. She said, you go in the waiting room and wait. There's a whole bunch of brothers there, but she told me I can't go. So one brother, he came and he said, you're not staying in here. He said, let's go. And so, subhanAllah, he let all the brothers know that I was coming. And you have to see this, sisters. Just imagine it. I'm walking down the hallway, and it's like almost like a troop of brothers. They're stepping back, right? And I was like, wow, that's awesome. Like, you're a woman, right? All these men are stepping back, moving out of your way. So they step, right? And then I get to, and I see this beautiful light coming from the brother's door. And I go in and I see his henna beard. You know, the beard was full of henna and the light was shining through, so much noor. And you know what he said? I said, Abu, I said, give me your last word of advice. I knew something was wrong. And he started to cry because he figured out that I knew. And he said, forgive the people. And to this day, subhanAllah, there's many times, my dear sisters, that we're going to have to forgive people. Imagine, I'm sure you guys are all multitasking in your mind. I think there's about 3, 4, 5, 6 people I got to forgive. But the point is that we have to forgive people. And you know, subhanAllah, Rasul ﷺ said in 2 riwayah, one said 70 excuses we give to our brother or sister. The other one says 100. So when a sister comes to me and she starts to complain, I say, okay, 1, get another excuse. 2, Habibti, we only went to 3. You have 70 left. So forgive the people, inshallah, my dear sisters, inshallah ta'ala. And I'm going to open the forum, inshallah, for any questions, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallahu fiki.